I didn't want to make this video, however, we have to. Charles Leclerc since Monaco this year has been getting bent over, looped up, and hammered into the ground by Ferrari. And yes, it's funny when Ferrari does Ferrari thing, but something I'm noticing is, at this point, people are feeling bad for Charles and just tired of Ferrari. Forget this year, since 2022, Charles has just been going through so much with Ferrari, and it is clearly starting to take a toll on his mental health with him going on peaceful adventures and literally finding God. I don't blame him. He is, to me, the second most talented driver on this grid, only behind Max. But that talent is starting to dry up, not due to Ferrari providing bad cars, but rather not providing him good support. In my opinion, I would much rather have bad cars and good support than good cars and bad support. And I am really starting to worry for Charles now, because what if nothing changes? What if the Leclerc that entered the sport and wowed us from 2018 to the beginning parts of 2022 is disappearing? So, let us discuss the topic of Charles Leclerc being potentially ruined by Ferrari. So, in case you didn't know, Ferrari have a bit of a reputation of incompetence in this sport. I could easily make a 30-minute video discussing every single Ferrari incompetency, not in the history of the sport, but just 2022 in general, and that would be heavily simplifying things. That is how bad things are. Now, don't get me wrong, even as a Ferrari fan, some of these things are very funny, but more often than not as a Ferrari fan, while you may laugh at dumb strategies, I am over here looking for a nice tall tree and sturdy rope. It reaches a point where you just need to start asking yourself, why does this always happen? So, if we the fans are getting sick and tired of incompetency, imagine how Charles feels. This guy could genuinely have so many more wins if it wasn't for Ferrari, and I think he is starting to realize that too. He is now looking more and more tired in interviews, and it's clearly taking a toll on his mental health, and it puts him in this dilemma of maybe potentially leaving the team for something more competent. But it is not as simple as that, since Ferrari is not only Charles's, but also his father's dream team, and it was always Leclerc's dream to win the championship with them, so leaving is not as simple as that. So before we discuss any possible resolutions, let's go into detail about both Ferrari's mistakes and even Charles's own mistakes. Ferrari have done so much to Charles since his signing to the team. However, I'm going to keep this recent to only 2022 because it was the first year on these current cars. And I'm also not going to mention every single thing, only what I deem noteworthy. So, let's start with the most obvious, and that is just the year 2022 in general. Ferrari built a championship winning car that can challenge Verstappen, and he did, up until Spain. See, the reliability on that car was like a BMW. There were problems every single month, and they were very costly. Not to mention, the strategy was beyond any of our comprehension, since in just forget about Monaco. And in Hungary, they put both drivers on hard tires, where the hard tire was quite literally the worst tire out of all the options. By spot, it was so over for that year, and thankfully, they got rid of Binotto and put in the French again, with Vasseur. So surely, things are bound to change, right? Well, not really, since 2023 wasn't exactly Ferrari's best year, since the car was a pig at first, but they did recover well, and the season actually wasn't too bad for Ferrari standards. But this season, oh man, what even happened? The season started out so good, but why did it fall apart? Before Monaco, there were very little to no mistakes from Ferrari, but after, that is a different story. To start, Canada was a mess. They got quality timing wrong, as well as just being off the pace in general, and in the race, it got worse since Leclerc had engine issues which lost him a heap of time, and I kid you not, the solution was to literally turn off the car and turn it on again. And they put him on dry tires on a wet track. Like, what was the plan there, guys? In Spain, there were issues with Sainz, with him not letting Charles through, who was faster, resulting in an incident that could have been avoided had Ferrari told Sainz to surrender his position so they both can work together to move up the grid. In Austria, Charles' engine blew up before he even left the pit, which ruined any chance of doing well in the sprint, and now, in Silverstone, they put Charles on the right tire way too early, which cooked them and ultimately sealed his race before half distance had even passed. How Charles hasn't strangled somebody at the team is just beyond me, but there is something that should be mentioned, and that is, Charles isn't 100% clean, and Ferrari aren't 100% wrong. Charles has made mistakes himself that do contribute to his poor performances recently, so let's discuss them. Now, drivers make mistakes, obviously. However, certain drivers may be more susceptible to mistakes due to the team itself. Let's take Checo for example. Red Bull wants him to do well despite him being absolutely garbage, so they re-sign his contract, but he still doesn't improve. Why? Well, with the way they talk about Checo, he isn't exactly being praised, and rightly so, but they trash him like they're on F1 Twitter. They don't give him good criticism, they just slander him. So that's partly a reason why Checo still can improve. Charles is going through something similar in the sense that the team does him no favors to improve his mistake susceptibility. I am willing to bet my entire right arm that if Ferrari stop messing him up and give him good strategy and good leadership, as well as a car that doesn't decline in performance, we will see Leclerc fighting for wins more often and even a championship. However, I am delusional, so sorry if everything I said was just not true. I am losing my mind. Anyways, Charles has made mistakes, such as in Canada, where he just let the dry tires go on, despite the track being very wet, and him being well informed of what was going on with the weather. In Spain, he didn't exactly play nice with Sainz, and I understand the frustration, but he could have ended both races. And in Austria, he got into a lap 1 collision which ruined his race before it even started. And in Silverstone, he, yet again, took no initiative in saying no to the team about wet tires and also getting the weather wrong again. So, couple everything he has done as well as what the team has done, and also how I only mentioned things that have happened at the last 4 races in a row, then you will see why Ferrari and Charles are suffering the way they are currently. We can only hope that in the future, Charles will recover mentally again, because he is clearly being hurt by everything that is happening to him, and even if some of it is self-inflicted, it is still so many unfortunate events, and it would cripple anyone, even Max. So after looking at everything, is it him or Ferrari that is more to blame for the disappointments lately? Well, if you were listening earlier to what I said that a driver's mistakes can be tied to the team's mistakes, so technically, both are to blame for everything that is happening to them. If Ferrari pick up their slack and learn how to be competent again, like Resource Ferrari has been for the majority of his tenure, I have no doubt Charles will perform again and bring a challenge to Max, and we all get our dream of a Max versus Charles title fight. But that is a big if. As Jose Mourinho once said, heritage. It's Ferrari heritage to fail. So it is a massive if, and I really can't see how things will change anytime soon. So there are 2 more questions to ask. The first being, where did things go wrong this year? Well, it's simple, the car. After Monaco, the next Ferrari upgrades weren't due up until Silverstone. However, the team rushed the upgrades to come at the triple header in small packages, but they didn't understand them, and they failed, which has ruined months of progress, made the car more stiff and thus having to be driven more carefully, which is not how Charles operates, and has completely tanked the confidence within the team. And this is all leading to more susceptibility to make mistakes. A domino effect, if you will. And the second question left to ask is, in the case that nothing ever changes, should Charles continue to suffer, or rather, should Charles Leclerc leave the Ferrari team? Well, to answer this immediately, I don't know. In my opinion, Ferrari is like a toxic relationship. You hate every second of it, but you don't leave because there are glimpses of something special there, and you stay in hopes that the special thing can stay forever. We see this with both Charles and Ferrari, since most of the time, it is dreadful, but there are times where they both cook and look like a match made in heaven. Ideally, if Ferrari do pick up their slack, Charles and Ferrari will cook identical to Max and Red Bull or Lewis and Mercedes. It's just a shame things are how they are. However, were Charles to ever leave the team, where would be his best destination? Well, first off, let me cook, and secondly, I think Charles Leclerc and Mercedes is also a great match. Now, admittedly, I have zero evidence. I am just going off of vibes, and in my opinion, this looks natural. Plus, with the way the team operates, it's how Charles operates, which is that they demand perfection, even with the exception of a few mistakes here and there. When George Russell had a bad year last year, he wasn't ridiculed by Mercedes, he was being helped out, and that is what ultimately led to him having a good late year and a great year so far. However, there is an obvious problem, being that Russell and Antonelli will probably be the Merc lineup for years to come. However, Leclerc and Mercedes can cook, even if it's not likely to ever happen at all. So, there you have it. That is what I think about Charles Leclerc's and Ferrari's current relationship as of right now. There is a lot of work to do. They both need to cut back on mistakes and lock in. Both can be so dominant, however, they are ruining each other's chances by doing stupid shit. I mean, I really wish things weren't like this, but I don't know, man. I just want it to be 2025 already, so I can see how Leclerc and Hamilton will do as teammates, even though it will probably blow up in their faces. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, since that would greatly help me, and let me know in the comments what you think of their relationship. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.